Hey, diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. Hello, my name is Tone202, and I'm here to tell you how to write your first. Don't that sound corny? That just sounds commercial. You know, what if somebody walked up to you? Hello, my name is Elgafed, and I'm here to ask you if you want to. You'd be like, get out of here. You sound like a. But nonetheless, commercialism sells. It sells. You know what I'm saying? Now, for some of you people who are going to see this, you're probably going to already know a lot of, or you're either going to you've either wrote a book or you're trying to write a book. And you're doing it for one reason or another. You're like, I want to write a book because I want everybody to know my story. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your story. Nobody cares about your story. That sounds cruel, doesn't it? But it's the truth. Nobody cares about your story. All right? What people care about is how you sell your story, how you get your story across, how you transform your story into something that they can relate to. You know what I'm saying? When I was a child, I ate 600 bananas. Nobody cares about you eating 600 bananas. You know what I'm saying? Name your book. I ate 600 bananas. See how many people read it. Who cares about you? But if you make 600 bananas a story, if you make it adventurous, if you make it an adventure from chapter to chapter, transferable, transform. If you can make that relate to an adult's life today, let's just say your 600 bananas ends up being, you made it look like it was time in traffic or something that adults spend every day going to work. And next thing you know, they're like, wait a minute, I spend, so many hours in traffic a day, a week. You know what I'm saying? Now now they can see where it's going. Then they start to care. Then they're interested. Even though it's just a story. You know what I'm saying? Now they can understand it. How do you write a book? Well, for one, you have to have an idea that you think somebody wants to read and or listen to. Because now audiobook is the big thing because people are lazy. No, it's because people are on the go. A lot of people don't visit the library like they used to and, go and get books. But a lot of people's life is faster now. Fast food, fast cars, fast love, fast everything. Everything's faster and everybody's on the go. A lot of people spend time in their vehicles because they're always moving from one place to another. The internet is a way of life. It's a big deal. So you have to tap into that. You say, well, if it's the way of their life, then I have to make my adventure a way of their life. How do I transform that? Well, you transform that by being a part of their life, making yourself and incorporating your story into their life. When you write a book, don't be selfish. Because I wrote a book, nobody ever. Hey, what up? Hey, what's going on, Pat? I wrote a book and not one person has read it, even though people are like, oh, that's interesting. Nobody's read it. One, I suck at grammar. But my story is very interesting. It's an adventure. Hold on for a second. We're going on an adventure. We're going on an adventure. We're going on an adventure. That's the way you have to look at yourself. You watched the World Cup. I did not watch the World Cup, but I know it was a big deal. I will watch it next year. Nonetheless, when you write a book, don't be selfish. Don't think that your book is going to be the greatest thing ever. Wow. When's the last time Korea won? And when you write it, you have to make it digestible to everyone. Everyone wants to be hungry for your book. That's just the way you have to be. So my book is called The Sorrowed King. Nobody's ever read it, but that's fine because I'll make it an audiobook. And it's on lulu.com. Now, when I first wrote this book, I wrote it like 10 years ago. I was unemployed. I had just gotten laid off. And I was depressed. I know, it's a sad story, isn't it? But, 10 years ago, this happened a lot. A lot of people got laid off. When I got laid off, it was a mass layoff. So there were a lot of people in my shoes. And this kept happening over and over to people in different companies in the same area. Nonetheless, when I got laid off, I went home. I laid in my bed for a long time, many a days, weeks. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to talk to anyone. And then I start hearing, this voice, get up and do something pretty much. And I kept hearing there once was a king name. And it went on, there once was a king named Tadusua who lived in the land of Hien. And I just kept hearing it and hearing it and hearing it. And then finally I got up, went to my, computer, and I just started typing. There once was a king named Tadusua who lived in the land of Hien. And eventually I got, a short story, 60 pages of, of a fantasy that I created. And I had to make up all these names, and I copywrote it, and I did all the formal stuff, and it went nowhere. But nonetheless, I'm of course about to turn it into an audiobook. But the thing about it is, I did it. I accomplished it. It was not something that I was set out to do. But when I did it, I was very unaware of its potential. So there are a lot of people who are out there writing books this thick, nobody's read it. I've ran into some, and they go to these book selling things and buy my book. Buy my book. It's like, no, because I don't want to read your books. But I will listen to your book. So I ran into a young lady on the internet, and her name was Rashida. And Rashida is like, I got a book, yada, yada, yada. You should listen to it. And she wasn't really, she was pushing it, but she wasn't really pushing it on me. And I just liked what she was saying. So I listened. I bought her book, $10, great price. And I listened to it, and I loved it. Her story was identifiable and transferable. I really enjoyed it because, one, it was a true story, and two, it's something that happens all over the world. You know what I'm saying? It's unique in its own, but it's a collection of triumph and tragedy that happens all the time, But it had her, she used her voice. She's the one that, she used her voice for the audiobook, and it was worth it. So I'm going to have to do the same for mine. But I'm telling you, don't be selfish when you write. Don't think that everybody needs to hear your story, because people will get by without ever knowing that you exist. Don't do that. You'll hurt yourself. Everybody needs to hear my story because it's such a story of triumph, and we've heard it before. But we've heard it before. That's good and bad. It's like people don't want to hear the same song over and over. Then there's renditions of the same song. But sometimes people need to be reminded of a situation that might be out there. And it doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to be, I crashed my car into a bridge. I don't care. Iconic pop. It doesn't have to be terrible. It can be something that's great. People need to be reminded about bees and how important bees are. You know what I'm saying? It's like, wow, I never paid attention to bees, but nonetheless, they're so important for, human life. Bees are gone in 4 years, then we're all out of here because, we need them to do their thing. Okay. But nonetheless, how many people wake up thinking about bees? You might have a story about bees. And, I'm just saying, don't be selfish with your story, but go into it thinking, this is a good story. I'm going to write it. I'm going to put it out there. Another thing, when you publish your story, if you publish it, there are a lot of ways to do it. There are a lot of inexpensive ways to do it. I went through lulu.com, so you can see my story on my book on lulu.com, The Sorrowed King, and also Amazon. So there that is. Your boy Tone 202, man. Write your book.